By the way, what are we going to talk about now that when is Joy's show over?
Joy's show is going to continue in a national tour. So,
so there will be no end.
There will be no end whatsoever to plugs for My First Ex-Husband, which you can get at myfirstexhusband.com.
You and her make fun of me so much. I think it's only fair that I make fun of the fact that
Absolutely.
Every time she opens her mouth, any day of the week, any platform, it could be the podcast, it could be the live show, it could be the weekend show, It could be the Friday show, anytime she will use it to plug My First Ex-Husband.com.
Yes, she will. And it's fine.
By the time this ends, it'll be my dead first ex-husband.
Well, she likes she says she was trained by Barbara Walters in the art of the plug. And by all accounts, I said yesterday, she passed her finally. I think yesterday. That was it. She moved fast. All right, let's get serious now. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Table. And joining me behind the table is not just Anna Navarro, but Cha-Cha as well. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you very much. And you're a little under the weather today.
I'm a little under the weather. I'm still hanging in. I'm distanced.
Lucky for you, I'm the podcast person today, so
Yes.
You can barely speak.
I have nothing to do. I can just check out entirely. But we'll start. I'll try to get you rolling here. We announced this morning on the show, and this is very exciting, former President Joe Biden and Dr. Jill Biden will be joining us exclusively on The View next Thursday, May 8th, in their first interview since leaving the White House. Now, what are you looking to hear from them at this moment?
What we're going through right now is not normal. And frankly, barely a minute goes by that Donald Trump is not blaming him, Joe Biden, for something, right? We saw it happen this week where he's blaming Joe Biden for the low GDP numbers, the low economic growth numbers for the first quarter of this year,
Right.
100 plus years into Donald Trump's term.
He's saying it's Joe Biden's stock market.
It's Joe Biden's stock market, but a year plus ago when Joe Biden was actually president and the stock market was great, Donald Trump was taking credit for that.
Correct.
So I think Joe Biden needs to respond to that. I also, I want to hear how he's doing. I want to hear what he's doing, what the next chapter of Joe Biden and Jill Biden is. I read this week that Jill Biden has been appointed to head a women's health initiative under the Milken Institute.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is important as a woman,
Right.
Because there was actually, she founded and she really pushed and advocated for women's health and had an entire program going on at HHS. Maria Shriver was part of that, and it's been cut, right? So that's been eliminated. I'm glad that it's found a house somewhere else. Is Joe Biden going to influence who is the next Democratic nominee for president? Probably not. Is Joe Biden going to be the leader of the Democratic Party that everybody seems to be searching for? Probably not. He did a lot. He did a lot for over 50 years. I think he's in a different stage of his life, but I think he has every right to speak. And I think mostly he's got every right to speak and respond to the things that Donald Trump accuses him of and blames him of on a daily basis. Look, I think people have a lot of a reservoir of goodwill and affection. At least I know I personally have a reservoir of goodwill and affection and gratitude to Joe Biden. I'd like to see how he's doing. Does he have any regrets?
Yeah.
I think it's hard not to ask the question, should he have resigned earlier from running? That's a question I think, it would be irresponsible not to ask. And hear his answers on that.
And also, listen, there's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of stories. There are books being written about what condition he was in this presidency. Donald Trump keeps saying things like he didn't know who he was pardoning with the auto pen and things like that. He has a right and to go out there and set the record straight for however he feels about these things.
I remember when there were a lot of people who were very critical of Joe Biden for issuing those pardons to his sister, his son, the January 6th people, all these people. And you know what? 102 days into Donald Trump's presidency, when you see the level of revenge, retribution, and pettiness he has, I am glad he pardoned those people. I wish he'd given more, not less pardons.
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump's first 100 days. His approval ratings are down, and this is being reported on all platforms, Fox News, everywhere. Do you think his supporters are wondering if they made a mistake?
I think his base has not moved much.
I agree
don't
with
think
you.
they've budged much at all.
I agree with you.
think, they could see pictures of him eating puppies. Not you, Chacha, don't get nervous. And they still wouldn't budge. But I think the people who broke for him last minute, I think those, black men, the Latinos, though he's had a significant drop with the Latino vote. I think,
Maybe people
independents.
that stayed home and wish
right,
they
people
hadn't
who
now.
stayed
Yeah.
home, people who maybe didn't vote for him because vote for Kamala because they were mad about the Middle East policy, whatever. I think a lot of those people are having remorse. Because certainly, if you didn't vote for Kamala over the Middle East, you can't be happy with what Donald Trump is doing. If you are a Latino who voted for Donald Trump, you have got to be somewhat aware of the racial profiling that's going on against our community. And, when I've said this to you over and over again, when you are Latino, it hits differently because I think we're also more aware and we are getting more news of the things that happen. The 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 7-year-old U.S. citizen kids who were sent to Honduras with a deported mother. The 4-year-old kid suffering from stage 4, very rare form of cancer and sent there without seeing a doctor, without access to the medication. The Cuban mother who was deported back to Cuba. Now, listen, when they start deporting Cubans, the damn thing is bad and real. But she left a 1-year-old U.S. citizen child. And these are people that have been showing up to ICE appointments and disappeared from ICE appointments. The U.S. citizen family whose house was broken into and raided by ICE in Oklahoma. The U.S. citizen kid from Georgia who got detained for 30 hours in Florida. The Puerto Rican U.S. citizen veteran who got detained because he was speaking Spanish. The Trump voter in Washington, D.C. area who was going to his construction work and got detained because I guess he fit the racial profile. So, yeah, I think that Latinos are reading more of those news and thinking to themselves, hell, you know what? Maybe when that bitch Ana Navarro was telling me that they were going to take away my tia and my abuela, maybe that bitch was right and I should have listened because, and so, look, the truth of the matter is that there are a lot of people living in a state of absolute fear. People that feel targeted. The LGBTQ, the transgender community. There's the black community watching their history be erased, their contributions to this country be erased from federal websites, from museums, from DOD archives, the books being removed from libraries. So yeah, I think if you belong to one of those communities that are being particularly targeted and you don't have some remorse, well, then you damn well should. But I also think a lot of the numbers that you see are a direct consequence, right? There's a cause and a consequence of the economic factors. People voted for Donald Trump because he promised he'd lower the price of eggs on day one. Well, he hasn't lowered the price of eggs. No matter how many times he says he has not lowered the price of groceries. And these tariffs have people up in arms because, they affect all of us. I have met very wealthy people who've told me that they don't know, business people that tell me they don't know how to plan, they don't know what to stop, what to shop, they don't know what to do, that they're going to have to pass this on to the consumer. I would ask you this. I would ask Donald Trump this. If you're so proud of your tariffs, why then did you immediately call Jeff Bezos to berate him and tell him not to post the amount the tariffs was adding on to the cost of the tchotchkes you buy on Amazon? I mean, shouldn't people be happy about these tariffs? And I think this week has been a disaster for Trump because the numbers are bad, no matter how he tries to spin it. the market is bad, and it's his market, no matter how much he tries to blame Biden. But then this thing he said about, oh, okay, so you're going to have to buy, okay, so there might be a problem with inventory, and maybe you're going to have to buy your kid $2 instead of $30 for Christmas, and maybe those $2 will be a couple of dollars more expensive. You know, dude, you got to get yourself out of Mar-a-Lago, and you got to get yourself out of a cabinet meeting where everybody is kissing your ass and most of the people around you are billionaires or multimillionaires. And you've got to go talk to regular people who can't afford the eggs. Regular people making minimum wage or a little bit above. People who can't afford their medicine. Most people can't afford to buy $30 for their kids in a good economic situation. Much less now. And it's also, you listen to him say this, and I was thinking to myself, my God, Marie Antoinette in orange makeup and with bad hair.
Sure.
Because it's really such a nonchalant, let them eat cake statement that he made. Oh, not $30, you'll have to buy $2, and the dolls will be $2. Okay, but let's no wonder this guy bankrupted 6 businesses, right? I mean, no wonder this happened.
Yeah.
Because if there's less dolls coming in, it means there's less activity and less employment at the ports. It means there's less employment at the shipping lines. It means that there's less employment for drivers taking the inventory that comes in from the ports to a retail store. There's less people working at the checkout counter and working to put that inventory in the aisles. There's, it affects all levels of our economy. And more than anything, this is affecting American psyche, right? People are afraid to spend. People are holding off on spending because they see how mercurial he is. They feel uncertainty.
It's very hard to know what's going to come.
Yeah. And we haven't even seen the full effect of what, these massive deportations have meant. Because that's going to affect agriculture. That's going to affect construction. That's going to affect the hospitality industry. We haven't felt the full effects of the drop in tourism. This weekend, I was at my bougie country club, and I ran into a couple. He's French. She's French-Canadian. They were planning a wedding next year. Very excited. The loveliest of people. These are not poor people. These are not people worrying about how to make ends meet. But they're probably not going to end up having the wedding in the United States because their French and French-Canadian friends don't want to fly to the United States. And so,
which has an impact on the
florists, on the caterers, on the waiters, on the people at valet.
Yeah.
I mean, on the airlines, on the airports.
No, tourism's a big part of the country, of our economy. There's no question. All right, I want to talk about what happened on the show today. We had Maryland Governor Wes Moore. You went back and said hello to him, even though you weren't on the show.
More importantly, Cha-Cha went up and said hello.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, I'm running the Cha-Cha primary.
Cha-Cha, she opens many doors.
I literally feel like we should never, ever again elect a president who does not like dogs. Okay, if they don't like dogs, they're probably a dog.
All right, so when the primary season gets hotter here and we have everybody on the show, we'll bring Cha-Cha back by as a test, and we'll see how it works. Well, he was on the show today. Joy was pestering him about running for president. He said he's not going to do that. Do you think he's an emerging leader in the Democratic Party?
Yes, and he should be. Look, I continuously say I think the message of the Democratic Party needs to come from the base. And a lot of times we look for elected leaders and for the message to trickle down. Mm-hmm. I think in this case, all these people that are hitting the streets, all these people that are sharing their stories and what they're going through, they're the ones that have to shape the future and the message of the Democratic Party. But I think it gives people a lot of hope. People are thirsty. People who are against Trump and are terrified by what's happening to this country are thirsty to hear people speak out fearlessly and to push every lever they have to fight against what Trump is doing. We're seeing it from J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois. We're seeing it from Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, where governors, frankly, are having to take the Trump administration to court over the tariffs, over the cuts in federal employment, over so many of the horrible things that have happened in the last 100 days.
Moving on to other news in the world. The Tony nominations came out today. I never thought I'd be talking to you about the Tonys.
I never thought I'd even know anything about the Tonys.
But some of your favorites came through. Tell us about it.
You know, I frankly have never paid attention to the Tonys. You know, I've said over and over again that I'm not a Broadway person, but all of a sudden I've turned into a Broadway person.
You're seeing more shows than my wife. It's amazing. Yeah.
And 3 of the shows that I've seen recently and absolutely loved are nominated. Buena Vista Social Club is nominated for 10 Tony Awards. It's Real Women Have Curves is nominated for 2. One of them for Justina Machado, who's going to be on the show later in May. LaTanya Jackson is nominated for Purpose. They've got that play got 2 nominations, and I was at a thing called the Hispanic Federation Gala last week. The Hispanic Federation was founded 35 years ago. They were celebrating their 35th anniversary by Luis Miranda. He is Lin-Manuel's father. But Luis has been and Lin-Manuel's mother have been activists their entire lives. And this Hispanic Federation is an organization that has done incredible work helping the Latino community, mostly here in the New York tri-state area, but also now beyond the borders of New York State. Chuck Schumer was there. The guy, Diego Luna from
Andor, my favorite show right now,
was received an award and spoke incredibly poignantly about, he gave a speech that inspired me greatly. He talked about the need to be together, the strength that comes from numbers. Because I think people individually, as an individual, are afraid to speak out. It's easier to speak out when we're all holding hands and doing it together. If they come for you, they come for me. And he talked about something that I hadn't really thought about, but when he said it, it really kind of, it was like an aha moment. He said, before I came to the United States, I was a Mexican. I was a Mexican. He's from Mexico. He was born in Mexico. He was raised in Mexico. And he said, it wasn't until I came here and started living here that I became a Latino. Right, because, and that happened to me, right? I mean, when I was a Nicaraguan kid and growing up as a Nicaraguan refugee and seeking asylum in the United States, I was, I cared about Nicaraguan. Today, I care about the Venezuelans who've been sent to that hellhole in El Salvador without any ties to gangs or any criminal records. I care about I care about the pan-Latino community in a way that doesn't really hit you until you're a member of it, because before that, you were a member of a specific nationality. But anyways, going back to the part about the Tonys. So Lin-Manuel Miranda was there, who, we know did In the Heights, did Hamilton. Hamilton, the 10th anniversary, is going to be celebrated in August.
I have tickets to see Leslie Odom Jr. come back. I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
So, I give a lot of credit to Lin-Manuel. There are a lot of people that came before him, but nobody has had as big an impact in opening up Broadway to the Latino community in particular, and making it, we talk over and over again about how representation matters. Sure. And watching a Puerto Rican kid playing Alexander Hamilton and Leslie Odom playing George Washington, that makes a difference. And so right now there are 2 Broadway shows. I never thought I'd see this, that are Latino stories, even though they're not just for Latinos, but they are Latino stories that are now, Real Women Have Curves and Buena Vista Social Club, that are now nominated for Tonys. I emailed, I texted Lin-Manuel this morning because this is so exciting. My little Latino heart is bursting with joy.
That's great.
Over Tony nominations. Who am I and what did I do with Anna Navarro?
It's great. I love it. You got to go to the Tonys. I've been lucky enough to go.
Have you been to Buena Vista?
I haven't yet. It's on my list now. Everything.
Have you been to Real Women?
Not yet. My wife.
Have you been to Purpose?
I haven't. No.
What the hell are you doing with your life?
I went to the wrong shows. Clearly, I went to a lot of shows that weren't nominated. First of all, which is annoying to me because now I have to go to all the other shows every year when the Tonys come out. My wife is like, "We got to see this. We got to see this. We got to see this." So she's on for all of those, and I get early. Luckily, I get to go to press screenings, which is great, so I don't have to pay for them. And my wife wants to see everything, but we make choices, and I feel like we picked all the wrong shows. So
who picks the choices?
She generally does. Yeah, like
This is like putting sugar on the margarita.
Yeah, exactly.
This is like it was Heather's mistake. I'm beginning to wonder about Heather's judgment.
Yeah, well, she'll be very excited to see these, so that'll be good. There's also one called Dead Outlaw that's supposed to be amazing. That
I want to see Death Becomes Her.
I did see that. I picked that one.
Have you gone and
correctly.
seen the George Clooney one?
I did not see that. I did see the one with Kieran Culkin and Bob Odenkirk and based on the movie in the 90s.
You're going way over my head.
Of it. Oh, Glenn Ross.
Wes Moore wins the George Clooney primary.
That's right. George Clooney picked Wes Moore as his next president.
And so he said on the show he's not running.
He said on the show he's not running. Joy asked him 12 times, didn't let it go. On the commercial break, I said, but if you change your mind and decide you're running, you'll come here, right? And he kind of nodded and said yes. So that's
well, he's got to run for re-election next year in Maryland, as does J.B. Pritzker. I think it's incredibly important. First of all, you have to tell your constituents, you are my top priority if you're asking them to vote for you for the next 4 years. Look, I think these young Democratic voices from outside the Beltway that have actually run things, Brian, it's going to take somebody that has run big operations, whether business or government, to fix everything Trump has broken. Everything he's broken in only 100 days. Imagine how much he's going to have broken after 4 years, right? It's going to mean, NOAA, the Department of Education, USAID, the Voice of America. I mean, my God, somebody needs to clean up all the mess. Somebody needs to clean up the boogers that Elon Musk kid spread all over the Resolute. That might have been my favorite day of his first 100 days. My favorite day might have been when Elon Musk's kid told him to shut up and then spread his boogers on his desk. That was a highlight of the 100 days for me.
I'm glad you're finding your moments where you can.
Do you have a highlight or a low light?
I enjoyed the Tesla showcase in the Rose Garden when they had all the cars.
I read yesterday that Tesla
Yeah.
board of directors is opening a search for a new CEO.
Wall Street Journal said that. Tesla says it's not true. But
oh, really?
Yeah, according to Elon.
Though, it's just so what Elon has done is feels so counterproductive because, like, all the Trumpers I know are driving around in huge pickup trucks.
Well, that's the thing. Because
at least in Miami, right? And it's the people who care about the environment who are driving around in these electric vehicles.
I have a lot of friends that are Trump supporters and conservatives in my world and family and things like that. Like you've mentioned, you do too. Not a single one of them owns a Tesla, but it could be a lot of things. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Good, because I feel like
I'm about to fall down. Yeah. Thank you for joining me.
You look clammy.
I'm a little clammy.
Or are you just having a hot flash?
No, I'm a little clammy.
Could you be perimenopausal?
I mean, probably at this point. I think we've all synced up. Thanks for joining me today, Anna. Tomorrow we have a great show with Kerry Washington and Omar C. We'll be back on Behind the Table this Monday, and we'll see you then.